All right, what's good, guys? My name is Ted, and if you don't know me, I run an Etsy 3D printing business, making about $500 to $700 a month in sales with just a single 3D printer. And you can see the numbers here. Last month, I pulled in about $500 in total sales and 20 orders. And in the year or so I've been doing this Etsy 3D printing business, I've had nearly 200 orders. I think I've crossed that threshold now, and I've made about $4,600 in revenue with just these three separate products, only working 1 to 2 hours a week on this. You don't need any revolutionary ideas. It can be very simple, and you only need a couple products to get started and get your feet off the ground. So today I'm going to be telling you about how I design my specific products and how I get products that sell on my Etsy store. So let's dive into it. The first step is to understand that you are the niche. What you're creating, you're in that niche already. Those are the activities, the hobbies, the things you do day to day. That is your niche and where you want to direct your product focus to. You live inside of this world, so you understand the problems that you run into day to day using different products or different processes that could be improved with a 3D printed product. So what I like to do is I like to keep a running note of daily frustrations that I run into when I'm, working day to day on different activities. What are the things that I can improve with my processes that help solve other people's problems? So for some background, I love sewing. I'm an apparel designer by trade, and this has a whole world of problems within it. There's a lot of things that can improve when you're making something, and I think this video applies very specifically to those with creative hobbies, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But there's a whole world of problems in this specific niche, especially in crafts where things could be improved. And your end goal is to make something that you're proud of. So you're going to buy things that get you there faster. I really thought about this for my consumer. Like, what are their desires? What are they really trying to do when they're sewing and making something? They want to be able to get to that endpoint faster, and they don't want to fuss around with the details and be annoyed by that. So I took that insight and that idea into my Etsy 3D printing shop when I was starting. So what I did, I spotted the gap of an existing product that I use. So what I did to have my first successful product is I created a pattern weight. Now this right here is what a traditional pattern weight looks like. You can also make them out of fabric at home here too. Or, many people just use like coffee mugs or they use like books to do it. But what I notice with the pattern weight is that, like here, you can kind of see it here. The fabric bulges up because one, it's super duper heavy, and two, it doesn't really get the corners here. You can see they kind of flap up, which is really annoying when you're trying to sew or trace something or cut something out with a rotary cutter because you have to hold your finger down and cut around it, which is like a little bit dangerous, but it's also a little bit annoying to do. It's a very small frustration, but it was something I noticed with the pattern weights specifically. And for some context, you have to cut out this entire piece of paper here to make the piece of the garment. So you really want those corners down if you can just trace it or cut it out quickly. It makes people, cut out the piece of paper faster or the fabric faster. So the problem I ran into was that weights do not hold the pattern corners flat. You can see that problem here, and this is the product I designed, the pattern weight. The paper flips up on the end here, but it doesn't hold it down and it makes it difficult to trace, like I said. So I got my 3D printer. I'm like, oh, hey, I can make a pretty simple product that solves this problem. It's nothing revolutionary. And I did that. I printed it out. I put some washers on the inside to weigh it down, and it solved that very simple problem. So what I did to have this successful product is I took an existing product and I solved exactly what it misses. It's an already existing product. It's something that people buy and already use, but I took it to here and I made it better and I also made it cheaper. That's another big point about 3D printing is you can make many of these products much cheaper. So, like I said, this wasn't any revolutionary or crazy design. It literally took me 10 to 15 minutes in CAD to make this. It's literally a freaking circle with a triangle. It's nothing crazy and it's very simple. But it's not the shape or design that sells the product, it's the problem that's solving. And I think that's why this pattern weight is a very great case study to analyze. It's a very simple shape, and if you looked at it on the surface, you'd be like, why is that even selling? Like, I don't understand what it does. But when you understand the background, the problem that it solves the paper turning up here, you understand how powerful that is and how you can sell that product easily. So, very simple product, solve people's problems, take an existing product and make it better. That's kind of the bare bones example of what I did with just my single 3D printer here in my basement. The other thing to consider is what are the advantages that 3D printers have compared to other forms of manufacturing? I think the biggest one is that it's customizable to an exact problem that you're running into. This is a very exact problem. It's very small. That corner flipping up. It's nothing crazy, but what that 3D printer allows you to do, it allows you to iterate and test it out really fast to make a product that solves a very niche and specific problem. The other thing is that it's cheaper to produce compared to competitors. So, for example, I sell this pattern weight for $18, but this set of three pattern weights here, I believe, is like upwards of $50 to $75 for just these three. And they don't do a great job. They kind of suck. So, I'm already, what, 2 to 3 times cheaper than the competition. And I do the job that it's trying to do much better. So, it's a no brainer that people are going to buy this product. The other thing is that it's made to order with zero risk. It's so much cheaper to produce it, and you don't have to hold inventory, which kind of leads into the fact that it's cheaper. You don't have to pay a warehouse to store your product. And again, it's only like a $300 startup cost to get one of these printers. Doesn't take a lot of money. And filaments 20 bucks a roll maximum. So this product only cost me $1.15 to make per set, and I'm able to sell it for $18 total. Now, I didn't include some of the things like the actual washers on the inside here that add to the price, but in terms of the actual filament costs, it's only $1.15 to actually print out this piece of plastic, and it makes about $10 in profit. So, what are all the things that you're going to need to create a successful winning product here? I created this little checklist. One of the biggest things, and now I don't necessarily think it's needed, but a familiar product. That can be a product that it's already taking and making better, or a product that something or somebody already interacts with. So, for example, I'm going to head back a little bit here. I have this serger bin. This is a product that people already interact with, but I made it better with this universal fit serger bin. So, having something that's already familiar for people creates a more easy to understand product because there's no educated needed with that product. The next is creating a product that has a real problem that people run into and a real problem that people that you solve with your product. This is what leads to it being sustainable and having a competitive advantage. I mean, it's a real problem that this corner is not hold down. It makes the process of creating something much slower. You don't make something as fast, or you can just kind of run into headaches or inaccuracy when you're making your product. The other advantage is having a cheaper than the competition product. When you create a product that's cheaper than the competition, it's kind of a no-brainer. You're going to buy the cheaper thing, obviously, and making something that's better than the existing solution. So I think these two, I mean, they're really big to like really driving that purchase. When it's cheaper and it's better, people are going to buy it. I mean, that's kind of the basics of selling something. When it's cheaper and it's a better solution, having a niche audience that is already searching for your product. And I think that's keyword here, searching. Where is your audience at? Where are they buying this product? That's something to consider when you're making your products. So for me, a lot of people on Etsy, they love crafting, they love sewing, so it's kind of natural for me to sell on Etsy. But if you have a, for example, like outdoor space, if you have a product in the outdoor space, that might not be necessarily on Etsy, but you can run your own Shopify store, run ads, make content to promote that product and the problem that it solves. The other thing is having it never go out of style. And I think that really ties into with the problem solving fact. If it solves a real problem that people are running into, it's never going to go out of style. People are going to always want it. There's always new people who pick up sewing every year and more people to reach out to with this product that will need this problem to be solved, and they're going to keep purchasing it. And on top of that, I think the product is kind of the foundation, but creating a great listing is really what takes it ahead. So, having a great description that leads with those problems, leads with those frustrations, leads to a successful description and helps that conversion just much more. A video showing the problem that it solves. I think this is huge, and it kind of ties in with this last point of education. You want to make sure that education and understanding what this product does is as low barrier as possible. That can be in the title, description, video, photos, everything. Making that process of understanding as easy as possible is important because it's most likely a new product. I'm sure when you saw the thumbnail of this specific product, you're like, what does that even do? Like, it's just a circle with a triangle. But if you saw the product in its context and you're in the niche, you can just quickly pick it up. You'll understand what it is, and you don't need a bunch of education. The other thing is photos. Having high contrast photos, high saturation is important. As you can see, these are my 3 different product photos. Super high contrast here, especially with the pattern weight to the white background. High contrast and saturation in the bin here, and high contrast and saturation in the purple here as well. That's another key aspect, really grabs the attention of the consumer. The other thing are tags, 2 to 3 in your specific niche. So, really getting specific with this. I mean, like, My OG is one, it's My Own Gear. That's a community that makes their own, like, gear for, like, outdoor hiking, etcetera. That's a tag I have. You can be specific with, like, a certain sewing method, like quilting, sewing, anything in your niche that when somebody sees it, they're like, "Oh, they're a part of this community, they get it too." I think those are really important to have both in the tags here and also in the description. The last thing I'll say is having a handwritten note really helps with those early reviews. So what I did at the start is I wrote a handwritten note just saying, I'm a small business, a review would go a long way. And people love to support small businesses. They're going to want to leave a good review because they know your product's going to be good. They bought it for a reason. You gave them all of this information, so they have no reason to be afraid. So getting those reviews early really help out. And if you do all of these steps, you can get to this point of $600 per month in sales with just a couple of products. Again, you don't need to spend a bunch of time on these products, but you want to spend the time on the problem. What are the problems that I can solve with a simple solution? You can do all of this with one printer, as I've done. You can do it with 3 different products, and you can do it only working 1 to 2 hours a week on making these products. That's the other advantage that 3D printers have. You don't have to spend a ton of time manufacturing these things. It does all the work for you. So with that, I hope you took something away from this video. I hope you understand that 3D printing is not something that has a huge barrier to entry, and you can make just a few products and be successful. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you took something away from it, and have a great rest of your day.